So I'm not like the biggest racing fan in the world, but I do love me a good motorsport movie, and F1 the movie is definitely that. This is the first movie that I've reviewed that I had high hopes for, and my expectations were absolutely met. I will be talking spoilers in this video, so if you want my final verdict spoiler free, skip to this time in the video. I never understood F1 up until now. I always liked NASCAR because it was cars that I recognized and found more relatable, for the lack of a better word, but F1 appeals to me now because of, I guess, how it pushes the science of motors and wheels. It's got the same director and producer as Top Gun Maverick, so you can definitely expect that immersive intensity in this movie, and just like in Top Gun Maverick, our actors are actually driving in the cockpits of modified F2 cars, and I just love how it so intimately showcases what F1 drivers experience. There was only like 2 moments in the movie that I could actually tell were CGI, and then there was one moment that I knew had to be CGI, but it just looked so incredibly real, I just wasn't sure, but otherwise, the racing in this movie just looks phenomenal. There's even a major crash scene in this movie that looks so real that if you told me they actually did this with like an unmanned car in real life, I would not be surprised in the slightest. One thing I love about this movie is how much it educates the audience on Formula One. The fact that they take into account the weather conditions, what the track is made out of, and even the softness of the material that the tires are made out of is just so fascinating to me. And again, just like Top Gun Maverick makes you want to join the Navy, this movie makes you want to watch Formula One. This is like the only good type of propaganda. It feels like this movie is like the pioneer of the racing genre, even though this genre has been around for a very long time. They actually show a lot of the races in this movie, and with each new race, they're trying some new clever strategy to try and win the race or gain some sort of advantage. Strategy is so clever that even big race fans would be thrown for a loop at how creative it is. The story was quite special too. The themes of desperation, gambling, and just taking risks in general is what kept me invested in the outcome of this story. Basically, the story is about a declining company that sponsors an F1 team, and the owner of the F1 team has one last season to turn their losing streak into something resembling success, or else he and the entire team, including their rookie driver Joshua Pierce, will be out of a job. So out of desperation, he recruits Sonny Hayes, who's a veteran racer that fell off decades ago after a really bad accident while racing, and after struggling with divorce, bankruptcy, and a really bad gambling addiction, is looking for a shot at redemption. While Brad Pitt is the star of this show, Damson Idris is his co-star, and I love the way that Sonny and Joshua contrast each other. The only real thing that they have in common, besides being racers, is that they're both really cocky. Sonny has that old-timer, I fought in Nam, boy, I'll beat your ass sort of arrogance to him, and then Joshua, on the other hand, has that sort of self-righteous, poisonous attitude of, I worked way too hard to get here only for them to bring this fossil out. And I absolutely love how they went the teamwork route with this movie. The way these two characters go from hating each other to relying on each other by the end of the movie is what really got me connected with not just their relationship with each other, but the characters individually. And the writers actually understood that it's going to be mostly men watching this movie, so they gave us a slightly above average, more male-catered romance story between Sonny and Kate, Kate being the technical director of the team. The story they put together here was just really solid. Usually racing movies can be quite predictable, but with this one, you just really don't know what the writers are going to throw at you. I do, however, have a couple of minor complaints. The biggest one is definitely the runtime. This movie is way too long at, I think, 2 hours and 36 minutes. Each moment of the movie is important to the story, but too much good is always bad, in my opinion, and I just think that they could have gotten all their points across successfully, even with a movie 30 minutes shorter. Also, Brad Pitt's performance feels slightly phoned in. I don't know if it's plastic surgery or something, but even though I felt deeply connected with his character, he certainly could have expressed a lot more emotion in this movie. The ending is a little bit cliched as well, with the "you're all right, kid," and the "am I gonna see you again sometime, baby?" and then like the dialogue from earlier in the movie that's repeated at the very end in kind of a cringy way. There's minor plot inconveniences, like when Sonny and Joshua are arguing with each other for like a solid 2 minutes, and then they look over and see that the press has been watching them this whole time as if they didn't ever notice them there. Then there's one scene where Sonny goes to visit Joshua in the hospital, and Joshua's mom actually brings Sonny just outside Joshua's hospital room and then confronts him within earshot of Joshua, when it would have been way more natural if Sonny actually walked up to Joshua's hospital room, his mother walks out, and then confronts him right there before he walks in. But otherwise, minor things like the fact that Kate being the first ever female team technical director in Formula One history is mentioned like 3 times in the exact same way that I just said it. I'll just let that slide since it didn't quite have that wokeness vibe to it, and you'd also be surprised at how many women are actually involved in the racing industry. I was actually really surprised to find out that there's no females in this position in Formula One. For everyone calling America a sexist and misogynist country, trust me, I used to work at a racetrack, and the American racing industry is one of the most toxic sporting industries that you could think of, and they are more progressive than the international version of the sport. So that was the movie F1. For my final verdict, I'll be ruling in favor of this movie at 83%, making it my second highest rated movie to date. I didn't really have much to say about this movie. It was just a really awesome movie, and you guys should definitely go see it. I've seen a small handful of actually good hits this summer. We had Lilo and Stitch, we had The Phoenician Scheme, and now this movie, which I'm afraid is probably going to be one of the last good hits this year, but I'm always surprised every day by something. But one other good movie that I would highly suggest you go see is Materialists. For a romance movie made by A24 in the year 2025, starring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal, I was actually really impressed. I just loved how honest the movie was about the reality of deep love. Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans have amazing chemistry in this movie. Say what you will about Dakota Johnson, I really don't think she's as bad of an actress as people say she is. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say she's necessarily Oscar worthy, but she's definitely not bland either. This is probably the best performance I've seen from her. The movie is a bit longer than it needs to be and doesn't get its points across quite as clearly as it needs to, but otherwise I am thoroughly impressed by an A24 original for once, and my final verdict comes in at 73%. That'll be all for this week. If you enjoyed my review, please consider dropping a like and hitting subscribe. I'm going to try and get around to doing Megan 2.0 at some point next week, since nothing big is coming out, as it's the 249th birthday of our nation and I'll be headed north for the holiday. But that's all for this case. This court is adjourned.